Hello. Today is a teardown and more, a feast for your eyes, a subtle electronics parts bonanza. It's not that. It's pretty simple actually, but maybe something to help you drift off to sleep if needed. Don't worry, I'm going to mix in some USB-C later too. Join me for an electronics exploration of a simple product, something that has been looked at many times by many others, but is extremely mass-produced by many companies. Alas, it's always fun to see something new. This LED light fixture is what I would consider a cheap but reasonable fixture for general lighting needs at an event. This is about bottom of the barrel. I would not consider it to be anywhere near installation quality or something I'd want to leave unattended, but something that can light up a show, a backdrop, or create an effect with little effort. This one comes with some professional features, which is why I would pick it over the really cheap stuff, but is it good enough? So I'm going to look at the usual things like the power it consumes, if there's any improvements that can be made, as well as tear it to bits to see how it works and what technology is in here. Of course, I'm going to power it with USB too. I expect reasonable things, but there are also questions of isolation in products like this. Is the ground isolated? Is the case grounded? Is the power supply appropriate or a fire hazard in waiting? These are important questions, and at the price point of this fixture, I expect a few failures. There is an affiliate link, which earns me a couple percent but costs you nothing in the description, as well as links for more information. Many thanks to my patrons and channel supporters. The detailed data and photos are on Patreon. What's in this thing anyway? I could speculate, and I'll probably get most of it correct. But there are some features I'd like to investigate in detail, like the power supply isolation, which I'll be testing, and the method of cooling everything. This thing pulled near 100 watts, and it has to get the heat from the power supply out and the heat from the LEDs out. LEDs don't like to be hot. I'll check some of the internal voltages to see if there's an option for making this thing battery powered, or if we can try and do something like power it from USB. Sounds like another USB project hiding in there. Aha, that's what this is really about, turning this into a USB-powered fixture. Of course, I'll do that. I got something cool to test out for later on that. The light fixture itself has the usual things, a set of buttons for controlling the unit manually, a PowerCon type input port, the blue one, PowerCon type output port, the gray one. These are used in a lot of professional gear, and the in-out allows easy daisy chaining. These are all knockoffs and are unlisted components. The cable that comes with it is unlisted, and the connector is also unlisted. No safety here. Even the plug-in doesn't have anything on it. Makes sense that this uses cheaper versions of these. This is one way they save money, but it also makes this impossible to comply with the safety listing in some areas. The unit does have a little sticker on it that says UL, but that's some fake BS. The ones that have this cost 10 times as much, so they can afford the safety tax. Anyway, speaking of knockoffs, time to plug in my trashy RS485 Arduino knockoff that outputs DMX signals to test out lights. It's total trash, but useful and practically free to put together. Anyway, if you want to know more about this thing, let me know. In keeping with knockoff DMX, 3-pin, none of that 5-pin rubbish. Once this is plugged in, it will make the light cycle through its light outputs, just 0.25 power and 1 channel at a time in 8-channel mode. You can change this to a 4-channel mode too, but then it'll be half power, and you set the channel 1 number up to skip that first value, which is the master value in the 8-channel mode. Got all that? If you know, you know. Okay, fine, here's the user manual for this thing. Remember, DMX is backwards to audio connections. In is out and out is in, and we're all in the upside down. Also, it's supposed to be 5 pins, but yeah, cheap stuff uses 3 pins. Those other 2 pins don't do anything. The manual describes how to program it and what all the channels should do and what that little display says and means with the various modes. DMX is a very common protocol used for controlling lots of lights. It says it uses 216 watts. Yeah, no, there's no chance that this many LEDs, it's not. It's not too far off. It's only 33% of the claim. Why can't they just be real with this stuff? It's about 20 watts per channel, probably 18 watts of LEDs for each color. Still, not a bad amount of LEDs. An 18 watt LED light bulb is still pretty bright. Just sitting around doing nothing, about 3 watts. Not something you want to leave plugged in all the time. No power factor correction to be seen here, but the power supply is kind of running at its limit. It's in the details of the power consumption. I wonder if the USB power supply will be any better. Spoiler. It's a lot better at full power, but the overhead is worse at low power. USBing all the things isn't the answer. Okay, let's do some earth testing. Like the ground? Is the earth connected to anything? It's common in cheap stuff that this won't even be connected, but this has a metal body, so hopefully it is. Looks like it is connected. Testing it to the fan grill looks like a reasonable connection. The DMX shield connections are also connected. The actual DMX pins themselves are not connected though, and they're not supposed to be. The case is also connected, but it's hard to get a measurement since the coating is not conductive. I'll check components inside later and get the specifics of this connection. Continuing on to some isolation testing. Not too many surprises here. It's got isolation, but it's not great. This thing really has no safety listing, and it might have some shaky certificates, but those are manufacturer generated. One is the same cert upside down. That's called quality, right? This isn't going to meet your safety requirements in many cases. As I showed earlier, it is actually earthed, but it isn't done correctly. Spoiler. The earth runs through the spindly wires to the circuit board to get to where it needs to go. So any real fault in those wires or traces melt, and then it's just live on the case. The leakage of the power supply is quite high too. It isn't meant to be handled, but you could run into issues with several of these on the same circuit and a residual current detector or ground fault protected circuit tripping. These tend to be used in situations where there's many fixtures connected, and at higher voltages, this number gets worse. So this gets a solid meh. It should be better. In terms of the power used by this fixture, here are the details in a few different modes of operation. It's no surprise that the power factor correction is lacking. So the VA power consumption will be higher. This means the amps will be higher. In a stage application where you want to cram more fixtures on the same wire, this means you can't put as many fixtures on the same wire because of that higher current, even if the power is within the rating. Thermally, this thing has a big fan in it, so it stays pretty cool. The fans run full speed all the time. There is actually no measurement of thermals anywhere in here, so it isn't monitoring inside the box. It's a fan, run at full speed, and hope it's good enough approach. And after an hour or so, it looks good. Effective cooling. Okay, time to tear this thing apart. The LED side is first. The screws are awful in this thing. The middle one stripped out and had to be drilled out. They definitely didn't use any torque settings, just blasted the screws in with all the force. The LEDs look pretty small. Based on how they are driving them, I'd say it's 1 watt per chip, 18 LEDs, so 18 watts per color. They are mounted on an aluminum substrate PCB, which will look at the heat dissipation method on the other side. The wires coming in are color coded, and it looks like a common positive design, which I was expecting. The LEDs go through little lenses to distribute the light, and these are held in place with 2 metal cutouts. These are made with steel. It's not a bad solution for the ease of manufacturing and just getting the product out. Less plastics. Did I mention that the whole outer housing of this thing is aluminum? So that's this side. It's a panel of LEDs. Time to flip it over and get into the other side. It's just 4 screws and you are in. Same issue with no torque spec on these. Right on the edge of stripping the screws to take them out. But at least it does come apart and looks like it's actually pretty serviceable. The screws are metal threaded as well, so less chance of stripping the thread. Not bad so far. The screws come off and shows all the surprises. I know, I already talked about some of the grounding wires. We can see the problem here. The power comes in and goes to the screw terminal on the power supply. The earth does not go directly to the case of the unit as it should with a wire to both sides of the case. So in the case of a major fault, say to the XLR jack, the current has to find its way through the metal case, which may or may not have good contact with the lower part of the case. There's no scraped aluminum sections, so it's relying on the screw threads stripping some coating. The casing below is connected through the screw into the power supply, so it's got a PCB trace there, then up the wire and out the connector. So in a high current situation, one of those pieces probably will fail. The casing below is connected through the screw in the power supply to that metal heatsink, and this isn't terrible. Everything does have an earth connection at least, and there are many, many worse things out there. In general, there is an off-the-shelf power supply. We'll have to check how much voltage this uses. Multimeter. Where did I put it? Looks like 24 volts DC. Okay, that's possible to get out of a USB adapter, with several options available to do that. AVS, adjustable voltage supply, being one of them. The power supply does look like it has some attention paid to detail. The transformer is reasonably sized, but it probably lacks good isolation. The secondary side doesn't have any extra sleeving on the wires. I'd imagine that passes right over the primary wires underneath that tape. The transistor that drives the primary side is plastic, so it's on the same heatsink as the output diodes. No synchronous rectifier here. There is an optocoupler and what look like thicker capacitors for safety or EMI suppression. It probably wouldn't pass requirements, but it's better than some I've seen. It does have fan cooling, so probably won't be getting too hot. The cheap capacitors shouldn't get too hot. The power supply does have a fuse and some heat shrink, so if something does fail horribly, that last effort should pop. Nice to see that. Okay, the board that actually does all the work. It's pretty neat. So this takes the DMX in-out connectors to the board and a receiver for the RS485 type signaling, as well as a microcontroller and some MOSFETs for driving each of the LED channels. It has built-in programs and a microphone too. The fixture has 4 colors, so 4 channels. It looks like it does have some filtering on each of the channels, but no output capacitor. It looks like the better part of a low-side buck converter. I'll leave a link in the description. So this should help with lower flicker in the PWM output signal versus just hard switching the LEDs. There are 6 wires going over to the LED board. This is 1 wire for each of the colors and 2 wires for the other side of the LEDs, plus 24 volts in this case, and these are shared. One 7400 series logic chip, nice. A flip-flop, I wonder what that's doing. It's wired to the display, so it's that. The logic will power up and operate at 5 volts on the input. I checked that. The LEDs obviously won't operate at that low voltage though, but this certainly could lend itself to some other purposes. They labeled all the parts on the circuit board, so certainly ripe for some hacking. There's a list of some of the components and the functions. Nothing too crazy. Not really any mystery components. So in general, pretty repairable. I'm not going to dive into the controller board much more. It looks pretty decent. The connectors have a bit of glue on them to hold them in place, since some of these fixtures get used in an environment where they get thrown around a bit and some shaking and be moved all the time. So that's a good attention to detail. Of course, the LED connector didn't have any glue on it. Okay, time to look at my new toy. I got a couple of these Vflex adapters that can be programmed easily to request different USB modes. Well, not modes, voltages. I'll get into that later. I did get these for free from the manufacturer. They should be able to get updates as well, which will be nice. They were sent in for me to check out. I didn't pay for them, but the cost seems reasonable for what they are. I did have some issues, like the adapter to wires, which of course I'm interested in, aren't good. You can't put larger wires in, the multimeter probes don't fit, and also the tabs completely failed on the first one I tried. The plastic isn't quite finished yet. I'd rather just raw wires or screw terminals. Anyway, learning pains. The second one works fine. I downloaded the app on my iPad, it collects too much data like everything else, plugged in the USB adapter, and it popped right up. Enter the voltage, and looks like that's it. That's dead simple, at least. Glad you can use a guest account. Why is there even an option for an account? I wonder how it's going to ask for 24 volts though. I'd like to see a few more options, like Forza mode, like AVS in this case would be ideal. And I'm sure these will come with software updates. It looks like the online user manual isn't complete yet either. So for today, the goal is powering an LED fixture. So plugging it into my anchor adapter and the power Z to see what it actually asks for. QC2, right. That's an odd choice. Also didn't know that went to 24 volts, but okay. That's going to be an issue with compatibility. When I tried it with the 250 watt power bank, it didn't work at all. It says PD 3.1, but it's only 5 volts, and the Vflex does give a blinking red LED, so it knows something is wrong. Good use of the LED, but it should pick a standard USB mode. EPR AVS would be preferable, so it's compatible with EPR capable adapters. Okay, so with the anchor and some wires stuffed in the end, checking if it's supplying the 24 volts I need, and yeah, coming out of the connector, 24 volts. Time to wire this into the light fixture and see what happens. Looks like it's using about 5 watts once it's connected. This is about 2 watts more than the fixture idling. Decent amount of USB overhead. I'm sure the fan is a lot of that power, but one thing that's different is if I turn all the LEDs on, it's using a lot less power, so it's showing how inefficient that built-in power supply is. This actually works much better with the USB power supply. Under the 3 amp value overall from the Vflex, so within the specifications, I'm going to measure the power consumption and series resistance as part of the USB cables when I get around to it. Overall, USB powering things is getting easier. Plug it in, type in a number, and now that's a 24 volt output device. Okay, that was fun. A look at a somewhat decent but cheap LED light fixture. It certainly has some issues, but I do expect it to last a reasonable amount of time. The power supply is likely the point of failure, but it looks like it could be replaced with something a bit better if needed. The LED driver board actually seems to be quite good quality. You can find all the parts, but obviously we need the firmware for that microcontroller if that was the failure point. The overall fixture works well though. It provides a lot of light. It's a wash fixture, if I didn't mention that, so pretty wide angle of light, but designed to be somewhat far away from whatever it's lighting up. Some of the issues are the lack of a safety listing and the component choices clearly being incapable of achieving a safety listing. There are a few things I don't like in the design, like the grounding design, but there are much worse things out there, and you can certainly do worse for the price point. For what I need to use it for, it's fine. Let me know what you think about this light. Is it stay away trash, or is it good enough for light duty use? I did have a little sidetrack of powering this from a USB adapter. The adapter did ask for some odd USB modes, but it did get the 24 volts with one of the USB adapters I have. It didn't work with the power bank, which I was hoping it would so I could battery power this fixture. Oh well, you win some, you lose some. There's potential with an update though. I do have a much cheaper LED light. Should I attempt to look at that one? I think it will show where this LED really stands at a different level. Of course, these having nothing on the real stuff, but you can buy 10 of these for the price of one of the good fixtures. The good fixture will have all the safety listings and appropriate ratings, and the light will be consistent fixture to fixture. If you are doing anything professionally, you'll be using those more expensive fixtures. Thanks for watching. There's a bunch of links in the description for more information, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.